Hello, everybody, and welcome to Beyond BMR. I'm your host, Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. Joining me in Studio B, straight back from Alabama Bigfoot Conference, the bearded wonder, my co-host, Tex. Tonight, we have Barry Littleton. We're going to see what type of trouble we can get in tonight. Beyond BMR goes beyond the mysteries of the world. We take you down all of the rabbit holes, from Bigfoot to Dogman, from UFOs to aliens, time travel, and the paranormal. How do they all come full circle? Again, you can find us on Texas Front Porch on YouTube, Bigfoot, Michigan Rob on YouTube, streaming tonight on both platforms. You can find us on iHeart and Odyssey Radio, Spreaker, wherever podcasts are found, including KPNL Radio with the lovely Selene. Thank you for that out in Oregon. If you like our content and you want to help support us, the super chat is open. Long after the show ends, the super thanks is also open. Check out our about pages on YouTube for scheduled events and other videos. We do much more than live shows. We offer a variety for you all. Speaking of our shows, we are on Mondays, Texas Front Porch at 9 o'clock in the East. Tuesdays is Van Buren Variety. That comes on at 8 o'clock in the East. Beyond BMR, 9 o'clock in the East. Jason McLean does something called Mysterious Library at Untold Radio AM at 10 in the East. 2 weeks left for the Jason McLean Live, 8 in the East. Jason's not going anywhere. Little different format for Jason, so 2 more weeks. 8 o'clock in the East. Jason McLean questions everything. He's dropped several videos already. Go subscribe to Jason McLean on YouTube to see what he's got brewing with Donnie Cho. Thursdays, brunch with Bigfoot, Michigan Rob, 1 o'clock in the East. The Blondes, the Booze, the Paranormal Podcast, 9 o'clock in East on Thursday night. Please subscribe to the Blondes, the Booze, and the Paranormal Podcast. If you need more woo with the booze, you get them on Friday. 9 in the East, the Blondes, the Booze, the Paranormal Podcast with a little bit of woo. Saturday, text Danielle Diva, Infamous Minds. It's true crime. It's a great show, especially if you're into true crime. They do a fantastic job. Please check out Tex and Daniela. That comes on at 3 o'clock in the East. And don't forget our lovely Jessica Jones, Spaced Out Radio, Saturday and Sunday at 10. And she also has her own channel going on throughout the week. You can check her out. All you got to do is check her out, look her up on YouTube. I'm going to bring up Tex. Hey, partner.
What's up?
Hey, what's up? Good to see you, my man. Fresh off your Alabama Bigfoot Conference.
Yeah, we had a good time. Man. Reconnected with some old friends, made some new friends, and that's what it's all about. I spoke and the blonde spoke, and it's got to spend some time. I got finally to meet Cam Buckner face to face. We've known each other for a while, and same thing with Steve Coles and Stacy Brown. Naomi was down there, and Naomi Flynn was down there, and that feller named Adam Davies and Steve Coles, of course. Great folks, man. I kid. They're great folks.
Yeah, they sounds a lot of great names I know already off the top of my head. I can't wait to get back in there on the circuit myself. I'm sad I missed it. I talked to you guys on the phone a couple times. That was fun. And you could tell I was a little down because I couldn't be with the gang. But you know what? Hey, life is long, hopefully, for most of us. And we'll be able to do it again sometime. There's a lot of cool things I know in the works already for the rest of this year. And, of course, starting next year, already working on some awesome things.
Yeah, we are already working on the 2024 Alabama Conference. So we're going to be helping Anita out a lot on that. And because, man, she does that pretty much by herself, and that's a hell of a load, man. So we offered our help, and she, took it, and we're going to be helping her out a lot. Can be more involved. So I'm really looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it. And them old boys that hosted it, man, at the Crest, man, that is just a gorgeous building. They've what do you call it when they take it back to original?
What they strip it down to the guts. I mean, I don't know the
Well,
professional
they
term.
really didn't have to, man. They had a drop ceiling in, and they took the drop ceiling and all these original ceilings and moldings from the 1930s and was up there. They stripped the tile off the floor and found these absolutely gorgeous hardwoods underneath it. It's just oh God, it's just a fabulous building. It really is. So,
Oh, that's awesome. And this one, that was in Anniston, Texas, correct? Or not, Alabama, I meant. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah. And what's cool about it is that it's in historic downtown Alabama, or Anniston, and restored. Thank you, Anila. And it's in the process. People are doing exactly what they did to this building. They're refurbishing and all these old buildings back to original, restored. There you go. And so it's a beautiful town, beautiful little town. And there's some things that we found out about the building that we were in, about buildings that are right behind it, which is very, very awesome. So we'll get into that a little later.
Yeah, we will. I like to talk about that just a little bit because we have Barry. Barry. It looks like he's ready. Barry Littleton, I'm bringing you up, Barry. 3, 2, 1, and I got to take you off. There you go. Hey, Barry, how you doing, bud?
Good. Greetings. How you both doing?
Any better would be legal, brother.
I'm always doing great when Barry Littleton joins us. It's always the people across Texas Front Porch, BMR, and all of our other channels. Everyone loves Barry Littleton, and I see all the time with Jessica. And in fact, your channel that you have on YouTube is fantastic. I always go to your YouTube channel, Barry Littleton, I think it is, right? On YouTube.
Yeah,
because
no cool handles or anything.
No, that's all you need. Bigfoot Mr. Rob's not the coolest handle. It's just something I threw together some of your time ago, and it works. Barry Littleton works, and I try to get you on at least once every 2 months, Barry, at the beginning of the month, because you're just a fascinating guy. You're full of energy, and I started the show. I put in the topic because I saw your latest video, Militant Bigfoot. I like to talk a little about that, but but what's been going on the last couple of weeks, I wanted to pick your brain just a little bit, not on all these topics, you guys, because I really haven't prepared for all of it. What's your thoughts, man, on Channel 8 out in Las Vegas about the alien that was supposedly alleged alien in this dude's backyard? I need to get Barry. I thought to myself, I got to start the show with Barry's thoughts on this because I know as I see you grinning, I think that would be a great way to start the show.
So you basically want to start this off by getting onions thrown at me, like this is the Apollo, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you want?
Oh, man. Never throw Barry under the bus.
Oh, wow. I'll tell you what. The good thing is that right now I think you're seeing so much attention, especially being diverted to disclosure, extraterrestrials, something now that's becoming, like, thanks to Ancient Aliens and other things, that's becoming a real popular thing right now. And this has been going on for a very long time. And right now, look, I, as a real, genuine contactee, am very suspect of anything like what we're being told there. And when I say that, I've seen some videos of these creatures. They're supposed to be these beings that to me look like anything that you've got experts in CGI right now, as both of you know, that can make things so real you can't tell the difference. Yeah. So I can't buy it. I need to see more than that. And when real contact and real disclosure thing, when it happens, it's happening right now on this channel, in these communities. I mean, I've always said since long before I came forward in 2014 is that about 80% of our population was contactees of some type and is unaware of it because it happens so deep in the dream state and in the other, in the higher heightened awareness for some of us, subconscious, but it happens more like in the dream state. So we're not aware of it, a lot of people, but a lot. And so far, since being blessed enough to have this minor platform that I haven't found anything to disprove that, so, and that way, I think that's the chance for this planet to save itself, humanity save itself, and this whole thing going forward, if we're going to become part of this, whatever it is, a galactic civilization. But what I saw right there, I mean, I'm sorry, it just didn't do anything for me.
Yeah, well, you know what? And by the way, your platform, you're most gracious. Your platform, because it's my go-to, because very credible source of information for me, and I learned
Well,
so
thank you.
much. I learn a lot from you, whether it's on
Well,
a
thanks,
live
sir.
show or perusing your YouTube channel. That's why I love having you on, and our
Thanks.
audience loves you as well. I'll give you my quick take, then I'll get Texas. I guess my take is this: not so sure what that was. The light that fell from the sky, interesting. The kid's testimony, interesting. But I didn't want to dabble into that today on this show. I just needed to get your thoughts. Well, thanks, Texas Front Porch. I just wanted to. I
Um,
just wanted to get your thoughts on that. I'm not going to give a verdict just yet myself.
Also, it happens. Oh, I'm gonna get in trouble for this. I don't care. I don't owe anybody anything.
Yeah,
It
go
happens
right ahead.
awful. It happens very close to this whole Dr. Greer conference. Okay, and this whole thing seems to happen. The timing of all this is suspect to me. I'm sorry, it just is.
Yeah. Well, you
And
got
I know
Doctor.
there's a lot of people that think he's great and everything. I'm not making any comment on that. I'm just saying that some of this hype around this disclosure and these certain individuals that are supposed to be doing it, and then combined with some of these stunts here, to me, we talk about false flags. That's what all this seems like to me.
Yeah. Well, it all started. You had that Channel 8 Las Vegas with the aliens, and then. And again, we're not going to talk about this today, but just it's current news, current events. David, what's his name? David Grush, Air Force intel guy, was on a couple days ago talking about non-human life form on the planet. We have all of these alien pilots, alien aircraft. There's been deaths associated with it. Again, I'm not prepared to do a show like that, but all this stuff this guy talks about, and then Dr. Greer, Stephen Greer, with what he talked about. So you're right. That's a great point. All this stuff is just cluster jammed down our throats all in less than 8 days, which to me is somewhat suspect. So that's my 2
And
cents for now.
and in all reality, retrieve crashes and things like that is very real. So I mean, there is an aspect of reality here that's mixed in with media publicity stuff. So it is what it is. But the point is, I guess, that we're going forward and able to talk about these things much more opening than it used to be. When I was a kid and I was going through the stuff I was going through, man, it was nothing you could find about this. You was relegated to like In Search of Leonard Nimoy. That's about it.
Yeah.
Wild Kingdom or something. Man, it wasn't anything till Art Bell came along that you really heard somebody talking about this stuff on a consistent basis. Anyway, I think it's good. That's a good question. Now, what you've done, my friend, is opened up the Pandora box. You try to close it, Rob. You can't close it back.
Yeah, well, I know you can't. I'm slick that Barry. I'm kind of slick that way.
Right on.
It's like you were saying. It's awful convenient, the timing and everything. This happened when we were at the Alabama conference, and my wife texted me about it. And did you hear about this? Well, no, I ain't heard nothing about nothing. And of course, what surprised me, it was just like, okay, you remember what was it, 2 years ago when the government first came out about the Tic Tacs? Okay, we don't know what they are; they're out there and all that kind of stuff. Man, I expected to see the floodgates open up and on this in our YouTube circle, and it just be nothing but that. And you barely heard a peep. It's the same thing with this. nobody at the conference even mentioned it. So that to me, that shows right there how much people kind of went, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't for those of us in the know, and you know, like
Yeah.
yourself and everybody, Barry. I think it was just, it's nothing but, like you said, it's a distraction. I think it's like the old magician's trick. But, you know, look what I'm doing over here in my right hand, so you don't see what I'm doing in my left.
Kind of like the Wizard of Oz, right?
Yeah.
He was a little guy back there pushing switches. Yeah.
Don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain. And I think we're seeing a lot of that. And we always have, but I think it's being ramped up. I really do.
You know, Tex is a wise old, what was that old saying, the snake oil salesman?
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of that going on right now, you know, and it's a shame because with the elevation in consciousness and people coming forward and things, you know, there's more questions than there is answers.
Oh,
you know, every time I think I've learned something, I get more questions than I have before and realize I know even less, especially when concerning anything that is this metaphysical, quantum physics. It's vast. And I think we're only just beginning to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, for example, you know, I'm dealing with the concept a lot of hearing how many people, because I've gotten really into listening to the accounts of Bigfoot now. I mean, you've got the places like the Bigfoot Project, the Bigfoot Case Files. I mean, these people are doing hundreds of people's accounts. And I think that's never been done before. And to hear some of the stuff you hear it's just fascinating to me. I found myself losing too much time listening to various contact experiences with Sasquatch, you know, and trying to determine myself at the point of where it is the people that are saying, hey, they're a nuisance on my property. And I've talked to some people that say that, you know, say they're not, you would never feed them or anything like that. They're hostile. They're wild animals, you know, opposed to those of us that are aware of them being manifested beings and having these paranormal abilities. And when we really look at the DNA that's been given, you know, I listened to what Pauletti said quite a bit, and I reviewed that. And when he talked about actually the nuclear DNA itself, not knowing where that's coming from Genbake, you know, and might I just say on I've had some wild experiences. Okay, I have clients sometimes that I take really deep, and they in hypnosis, and they like some have had maybe communication with Sasquatch. Okay, and it's weird. It's the people that you wouldn't think that have gone out camping or done something that aren't fully aware of it, you know, but you get them real deep and they've had some sort of communication with them. And I've gone so far to ask somebody, well, that doesn't know nuclear DNA more than I know a tennis overhead. And I say, you know, well, where's nuclear DNA come from? And they just say, oh, scientists here on Earth never be able to figure that out. It comes from close to source.
Right.
Now, how does someone say that when they're in a trance like that knows no more about science? Definitely what we're talking about here. This is just fascinating to me. So anyway, going back to the Sasquatch DNA, when you go to that, also the mitochondrial DNA from the mother's side, and that can be traced to certain human deal there. I can deal with that. But is that more when we're dealing with these experiments? You know, I've done a lot of work with Jessica now. And when I give her these blind targets, she does not know what she's looking at. Okay.
Right.
In terms of she doesn't know what the target is and what she's looking at. And how often these things have come up. Like, for say, I wanted to compare what information she got from Chupacabra as a blind target from what I had talked about with a gentleman named John Vivinco when I was at that Assetti Ranch in 2019. He had his team had remote viewed Chupacabra, and they had seen that it had come from an underground laboratory that had been damaged, or a laboratory that had been damaged in a hurricane. And, you know, she picked up pretty much the same thing, this water, hurricane, that type of a thing. And it's always these laboratories, you know, dealing with whether it's the G word, these underground installations, but that's been going on a long time on this planet. these chimeras and these things. It's been going on for thousands and thousands of years. It's not something new. And these same dark forces that have been doing it before are doing it now. So when dealing with the different type of Sasquatch we have, what are we dealing with? The ones that have the paranormal, what is like, let's say humanity, human blueprint is supposed to be called the Adam Kadmon, okay? What is the blueprint for Sasquatch? And, I do in some of my past life regressions with clients, I'll do what's called life between lives. And during that type of a regression, the guide automatically comes, okay? You don't say, hey, is your guide there? That's suggestive, okay? No, the natural process, the guide automatically comes and takes the client, the soul, to a place I call the place of translation and reconfiguration. And where that is, and they'll usually present like a ledger or something. It could be a library, it could be a forest, but they'll always have this ledger, and they'll go over the client's, that soul, that life, okay, and how that's incorporated into the matrix. And then every one of these I've done, it's never been the soul trap saying, hey, the guide says I have to go here, or hey, creator's making me go there. It's never been that. Every one of these people is saying, I'm choosing to go here and there. But I'm telling you, gentlemen, this for one reason. I'm getting a little excited, so I got to amp down, all right? But
that's why we love you, Barry. We love your excitement.
But I mean, this stuff is important because I have certain concepts with my experiences and all the other things, and some of this is blowing me away. And I think when it said you have to be as of children to get back into the kingdom, I think that's what is meant probably, because I'm feeling brand new all the time. Anyway, this client, when it came to the guide and the place of translation and reconfiguration, it was a starship of some type that is described to me as being outside the universal pretty much continuum. And they're in a type of a crystal chamber. And when they reincarnate, they can choose the universe they wish to incarnate into. And I started asking about different universes they had been in, and they start describing some of them. And I took an interest in this, especially because when they described some of these universes, they said they look like broken shards of glass. I've had experiences myself that is somewhat accurate. You have, when looking at possible different universes, they look like different broken shards of glass. Why, I can't tell you. It messes up our whole thing with bubble theory. But anyway, point being, sorry, fellas, narrowing this, the guide for this experience in this LBL was some type of Sasquatch. And when I say this, this was larger than most, a more golden type of hair, but it has on a uniform that is real serious. Like we're talking about Federation type of uniform, but this is the guide that came for this client. And it was really interesting when start dealing, is that the top of what the Sasquatch blueprint might come from. And it's fascinating because just probably, a week before I did that regression with that client, I did a show with Mr. Sasquatch and Brian Bland, Michael Harrell, or I'm sorry, Pork and Beans. Yeah, it was a very long interview, but it was a good one. But Pork, or whatever he calls himself, Michael. But he brought it. Maybe he's Beans. I don't know. Michael's cool. He's been following me since I first came forward in 2014. He's got a lot of good information. But he kept mentioning again and again the UFOs in Peru and how often both tall and small Sasquatch are seen on those craft by contactees. They're reported a lot there. And he kept talking about these other type of craft that were more of a galactic that had Sasquatch aboard. And, I just find that fascinating, him to say that. We already know there's a connection there. But when I hear something like that from a client, you can just make this stuff up. You know what I mean? It's what their subconscious and superconscious has recorded throughout their soul existence. So it is what it is. Sorry, I'll leave it there. I feel like we went from somewhere on I took a bad down.
What I love most, and I think Tex can always attest to this too. One of the great reasons I always enjoy speaking with you, Barry, is when you speak of any subject in what you just brought up, you've had past experiences that they all mesh, right? I mean, you're talking from a position of being in the know. For people that don't know about your experience with life and death, right? And all these other things that you've walked through in your life, you can attribute these to everything that we talk about on this show because you've been there in some, not everything, of course, Barry, but you've been there in some fashion, man. And that's why it's always it's really refreshing to hear you speak. So you can talk about anything, and I listen, I draw on every word. You're the only person I take notes when you're on a show.
Oh, thanks, man. I'll tell you, it looks cool because it's cyberspace, but in person, you'd probably be disappointed. I'm not really that cool in person. You'd probably be, man, I go and say nothing cool.
You're probably bored. You're probably, hey, how you doing?
I go to some of those conferences. I think maybe people think I walk around going, oh, Arcturians, Pleiadians. And I don't
think you're sitting in the corner by yourself though with your head folded like this, right? Yeah.
No, they're fun. Those, what's really fun about those is it's a chance to meet like-minded people that have the ability to go there and enjoy such, and it's really cool. It's a great place to exchange information, get good vibes, and everybody has so many questions and needs somewhere to express the experiences they've had. And those are good places, because otherwise that's the problem with this world, at least somewhere, at least here in the United States, definitely hiding our spirituality, hiding our experiences with paranormal. That's, I think, is what's changing. And paranormal is ramping up too, as everyone knows. So
now this is kind of a loaded question, I guess. But I want your opinion. I think if I remember your opinion, I'll put it that way. Where does the past life transgressions? There's probably a lot of those too. Regression tie in with the what we call the paranormal or the ghosts or spirits. Okay, where does all that tie in with the UFO stuff, the aliens? I mean, is this? Do you feel this is all connected, or is there a separate entity up there that me as a Christian I call God, and
that's a great question. That's a loaded question.
It's a spooky question to handle. It really is, because there's oh man, I don't want to get into the whole religious aspect of it, but
it's okay. We can address it spiritually. It's cool.
Well, yeah. I think you have to when you start talking about these subjects. I'm and I'm leaving Sasquatch alone because
I'm supposed to say something. You mind if I interrupt?
You go right ahead.
I pick stuff up. All right.
Right.
Okay. When dealing with something I do a lot of, and you spoke of something, Rob, and something I had to accept is that all the things that happened in my life have brought me to doing the work I'm doing now. And people that know me personally know that, my dear God, I had no reality for coming forward like this or being in any position I'm in right now. When I was younger, I talked like I was going to tell my story one day. Man, I was just talk. I wasn't really going to do it because it's a career ruiner. And then I had that accident and I died. And all this stuff happened that tested even what I thought I knew about concerning my study of past lives and the Tibetan, the Bardo Thodol, which is a Tibetan Book of the Dead, all the things I had studied, and some of those, a lot of that stuff didn't hold up when I went through the process myself. And now when dealing with earthbound spirits, okay?
Yeah.
And this is a multiple of things that stop people from crossing over. And it's a little bit frightening because it's a lot easier than what we think. I mean, something you tripped out on your crib, tripped out on some people, on some drugs, on some drinks, or whatever it might be, but it can stop people from crossing over. Or just something like someone you love a lot when they're leaning over you, say, oh God, please don't leave me. And then they won't. You know what I mean? And they wind up getting hung here and not going into the light. Or you're dealing with these people who are giving this horrible advice of not going into the light when you die. Okay. And what that does is cause a lot more work for me. Okay. Because it keeps people trapped here. And until the people can meet a certain criteria I've mentioned, 3 criteria, I won't even argue about it. Which one is, have they had a near-death experience themselves, like I have, if they died in this body? 2, are they a medium? Okay, every medium is a psychic. Every psychic is not a medium. They're different gifts. Are they a medium? Number 3, have they dealt with a caseload of earthbound spirits, whether inside the energy field or outside? Have they even mentioned that? Okay, so until they meet those 3 criteria, I won't go into that anymore, argue with those people. And I'll tell you something that's consistent and why I think they want me to talk about this text is that each one of these earthbounds, there's certain consistencies. They say the same thing. It's dark. It's dark. It's dark. You know, and they wind up joining with others, you know, and then like for me, I can see, okay. So when I'm dealing with this client, there already might be a portal there and either angelics or what appears to be a humanoid form there, you know, and they can't see it. And when, you know, the earthbound is talking through the person that is hypnotized, but they can't see it until, guess what? People aren't going to like this, but it is what it is. And I'm coming from the heart. Until I start talking about the love of God, and it's a personal experience and not religious, it's personal. And things starts changing. They start being able to see what's already there. I've already seen. Well, what is it? Well, there's my mother. There's my father. Well, they've been here already. They couldn't see them because they weren't with the love and God. But so never mind these people telling people don't go in the light. They don't know what they're talking about. Because you got those that cross over are able to come back with sometimes angelics, which makes them like a cherubim when there's 2 of them. Okay. And they've changed. And they're not joining with other people, ruining people's lives. And when I say that here, these earthbounds I'm talking about are on the inside of the energy field. You feel me? And when I say that, they're so entwined in the energy field of people that they only express themselves as negative behavior patterns that destroys people's lives. So it's not like if something now you got like grandma attached to you as a mediums, we can detect that a lot of the time, you know, and be able to get survival evidence or whatever it is, whether it's one that didn't cross over or still one that is coming back and helping. You can get that information, the survival evidence. But these earthbounds are not, you don't know they're there. I don't care how good you are. They're really entwined in there. And, you know, the average person, like, you know, has that I deal with has anywhere 5 up on them.
So let me ask you, because we experienced something. We did a live investigation Thursday night.
Yeah.
And we experienced something that, honestly, I've never experienced before. And
what's that? What happened?
Well, everything that we felt, we caught, all that to me can be pushed aside. Okay, but one thing, we had a spray can of industrial cleaner move from down in the basement at the bottom of stairs to the top of the stairs, 5 or 6, at least 5 or 6 steps. Physically move from the bottom of in the basement, directly in the middle, standing up in the middle of these stairwells that I had just walked past, and it was not there. And the only person that could have put it there if they were hoaxing somebody was me. And I'll tell you right now, I didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would have had to, because everybody else was downstairs in the basement, right there where I was walking to. I would have had to walk down there, steal this can without them knowing it, walk back up the flight of stairs, place the can, and walk right back down the stairs again.
Question: Is this like a touring location, a ghost touring location, or something like that?
We were the first ones to investigate it.
You know, you get in houses like that, you can get
and it
those.
Wasn't a house; it was a business.
A what?
It was a business.
A business.
It had been restored It had been restored to its natural beauty from the 1920s or 30s.
Okay. So something old, very old. You know, stuff like that holds not just phantoms from the past in them, but also you've got spirits that both never cross over. And not to mention, you know, we get some of these the land, stuff starts coming out of the land that can be something much more than earthbound spirits. It can be either
Right.
demonic or things of that nature. And when you start dealing with the ones that can move objects more than just what we call apporting, which is where your keys disappear and all of a sudden you looking everywhere and then they're right there on the counter when you know they weren't
Right.
there. And you've got the apporting like that, but you get things that can actually move a heavy, dense object like that. You got to be
Yeah.
careful with what you might be dealing with. You know what I mean? It could be something more than a ghost.
And
Food
see,
for
and
thought.
that's
Or
my
it could be too. Some of them can get pretty strong, especially the ones that. Have you ever noticed how, like, a lot of times especially when you deal with children in haunted houses, they'll tell you, oh, they have their invisible friend, their imaginary friend comes out of the
right.
closet, and they play with them. They're always coming out of the closet. Closets in that way are like, think about what orgone boxes are, or what science calls the Casimir effect, which is actually two plates and the free energy that starts building between the two plates. That's also similar to how an orgone box, a real one, functions with the layered, like organic metal, layer organic. It's the same similar thing, the Casimir effect. So
Right.
for a ghost, disembodied, that's a good place to start charging up in there. And if I had a base to come out of and operate more in the house. So, there again, food for thought.
Yeah. What I was, and I had a thought, and of course, this, after you do an investigation like this, and you have something that happens that puzzles you, and and I've been dwelling on this quite a bit, trying to figure this out, I've been trying to find a logical answer for it. I really have. And it's the same thing with our log getting moved out of our campfire like a couple weeks ago. But
Mhm.
I wonder if, since it was the first time that we were investigating, we have a lot of electronics going and stuff like that for the investigation. And what I'm curious about is if possibly this entity, and that's what I'm going to call it because I don't know what it was, if we gave it the energy to be able to do that.
It's quite possible. It's quite possible. I mean,
Because,
you can take into account that in some haunted locations have the same effect with batteries that Sasquatch does. Seems to
well,
drain them, mess them
right,
up.
right. And see, and we had a lot of crazy things kind of like that go on.
Hmm.
And we had, even the next day during the day, we had, at the investigation, we had people getting poked and prodded and stuff like that, pinched. But it didn't seem malicious. It seemed like it was trying to get their attention more. And
You know,
the next day during the day, we had batteries failing, and we had um,
mhm.
lights coming on that we had set up, but we didn't even, we weren't, they weren't there to ghost hunt. I mean, it was just sitting there, and these lights come on and change colors and all this kind of stuff. So these things were around us a lot, but there was a lot more people than that building is used to having in it. And I'm just wondering
you
if
know,
that gave them that source.
you gotta, in a situation like that, you've got some people also that have abilities and are not able to control it, and it creates these poltergeists. And these beings can use that poltergeist, like the type of psychotronic energy
Right.
psychokinetic energy that comes from that, use that for manifestation and more activity. So that sounds very feasible what you're saying. And also a location like that, a really haunted location like that, the ones I've been in, they normally have two portals. One portal, portals come like male and female in that way. There's always two of them in a location like that. And so you probably have, maybe, who knows what's coming through in certain areas. So there's probably one or two rooms that are more active there. But what might be coming through, you might have more than just even earthbounds. You might have something similar to actually what I did a couple of videos about this, the midway creatures, sometimes also called jinn and other things like that. But those are beings that also use those portals that could be using that area. Especially you got an old building like that, all sorts of stuff could have been going there a long time. Who knows, Rob?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have some drinks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
oh yeah, yes, Gary, for sure. You know that story.
Yeah,
It,
yeah,
I wanted to ask you really quickly.
sure.
Your clients that you take, what service is it that you provide for all your clients?
I do readings, but what we're talking about is hypnosis. In
Hypnosis.
hypnosis, I do I do earthbound spirit release, also regressions of various types, earth past life regressions,
Okay.
ET contact regressions, also trauma removal,
Okay.
generational curse breaking, a few of those
Okay.
things.
And the reason I asked is because I knew some of the things you were involved with, and I was always fascinated with folks that do these things. And my question to you, now that we're involved with this, and we've got everything in the world encompassing the earth, have you ever came across a non-human as a client? And if you did, how could you
oh
discern that?
wow, good question.
That's a good question. Um, you know, wow, that's an interesting question. In that way, I could say yes. Like even just yesterday, I had something happen, and it's individuals like those that might be really true hybrids that are carrying this extraterrestrial DNA. And I'll tell you, the people, it's never the ones you're seeing in the media that are claiming this. Okay, these are people that you wouldn't know, but they're interested in this type of stuff. And when you see them, they look odd. They look odd. They might be skinny, thin, and we should look at them like, God, they kind of almost look like some type of a gray or weird extraterrestrial. It is what it is. So in that way, I've had some people that a couple of clients that have perhaps that genetic, but otherwise they're normal people like you and I, but they have that possibility there. Now, as far as them being a non-human, like the charters I talk about that come around every 7 years that I believe visit lifelong contactees like myself, and every 7 years they show up, they come out of a crowd or a public place, and they just say something incredible to you. And when it's over, it really pushes your consciousness forward. And when I talk about these charters, to me, they feel like, honestly, if we don't destroy ourselves in the next 2 or 3,000 years, what will we really be like energetically as
Okay.
people? You know what I mean? Before we maybe abandon this type of a container of consciousness. It's
Right.
food for thought, and that's the way they feel to me. And of course, if AI doesn't take us over too and all that stuff, I'm not going to go
Yeah.
into that. But yeah, so I mean, so in that way, and they to me, okay, when they every 7 years I've been approached by one of them, and when I first came forward talking about this in 2014, I couldn't believe the amount of responses I got, because normally these people will approach you at somewhere like an airport, a bus station, a library, some public place. And how often do you have someone that just comes out of a crowd and comes up to you talking some weird stuff and then just goes on? You know what I mean? But when they do this, it really impacts you deeply. And I think sometimes with some angelics that walk around in human form have the same impact, do the same thing. But I think these are more perhaps human from the future. I don't know. All right. But anyway, I haven't had one of them as a client yet.
Well, okay. Well, I'm going to ask you one other question a little bit. What about when you've had a client, and I know you can pick up on energy very quickly, anything that was just had nefarious intent, right? Where you got to the point where, man, I don't know if I want to continue on with this person as a client because you just got a bad feeling. I mean, whatever that feeling is, I don't know, whatever energy was projected, I don't know, but just something said, you know what, I got to cut this with this person.
In a case of that, I've had that happen. And in that case, I'm dealing with earthbound spirit level. I'm not dealing with the demonic. I'll get rid of them, but I'm not
Yeah.
going to deal with them and try to say that I'm just Max von Sydow coming in doing the battle. No, I'll let others do that. Exorcists could do that. Okay, I deal more with the earthbound spirit, and I use cognitive behavioral to do that, which is the same thing I use with both child clients and adult clients in the juvenile justice system and anyway, professionally, but it's the same thing. It works even more on earthbound spirits. Now, I've had a case that a lot of times during that process, the demonic forces won't give me a name. They won't give you a name. And they'll start doing things that are not just hateful things. And the client themselves may not really be ready to get rid of these things. They talk like they are, but you'll see when they're really under, do they really want to get rid of this thing? Are they prepared for it? And a telltale sign afterwards is they won't do the protections.
Yeah.
They won't do the protections, so they pick the stuff right back up. And they'll wait till I'm gone. I've even had some earthbounds tell me, "Oh, I heard you were coming, and you're gonna try to get rid of me." I said, "Well, who told you I was coming?" And they won't give me an answer.
Right.
And sometimes it might be, "Oh, well, the others that were here that you just got rid of." No, but sometimes maybe, but a lot of times these are just deceptive. And if the person doesn't really want to help themselves, Rob, there's nothing I can do. You know what I mean? Or anyone can do.
Oh,
I don't want to protections. Keep up your, our biofield, our aura is our immune system towards attachments, period. So you got to keep it strong. You got to keep it intact. You got to keep your ethereal net together and keep these things off of you. That is the way, so food for thought. Once you cross things over off someone or get rid of the demonic or whatever, and then they don't do the protections, they're just going to wait. They're going to come back. Yeah, it's a familiar host.
And I feel that's interesting how you mentioned about if a true demonic is not going to give up their name, because I think we all even seen that in all these exorcist movies, or even a couple people I've watched on YouTube, because once they give up their name, don't they kind of in a way give up some of their power?
Man, I don't know, brother. I'm not an expert on the demonic. I just know some of the strategies that they use.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm just picking your brain. I don't have the answer.
But most, the one time like I got a name, it wasn't anything intelligent to me. You know what I mean? Another giveaway. And it was too reluctant to even give that.
Right.
And normally we deal with the earthbound, it's somebody that's been wanting to talk to somebody so bad they've joined with someone. So they're more eager to talk a lot of the time. And I had a chance, like give you an example, one earthbound trying to cross over, they were a little reluctant. I got them, but they got them to go, but they were more reluctant. And when I started talking about like the creator, God, oh, don't you dare talk to me about God.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because if God was real, he wouldn't allow us to be trapped down here, or us down here bumping into each other and you all ignoring us forever. Think about that statement. That is describing hell on earth. Us bumping into each other, us all bumping into each other, and so many earthbounds that they're bumping into each other. And that you all wouldn't be ignoring us forever. We can't hear them, unless you're a medium. And you can get bombarded. I've had a situation where I made the mistake of doing one of these crossings downtown in this apartment complex that is on the river where I live, very old river, at a confluence actually here. And, I'm doing this, and I'm actually trying to actually bring a certain earthbound there that I'm trying to cross. And I did it, and I had another medium there, so I wanted them to also assist. But I'm doing this, and the whole room filled up with earthbounds in this apartment complex, all wanting either to know what I'm doing or trying to get help. A point to where I had to get rid of them all out of there. I had another situation where this earthbound describes, so many of them, I'll ask, where do they join with the person at? The client, they'll tell you. And so often I get the hospital. And it gets really scary when they start telling you the incubator room. So that means they've been with this person for forever. It's a 40-year-old person sitting here with me. They've been with this person forever, influencing their behaviors, the things that, they had a problem with when they died. It could be alcoholism. So that person's been drinking all their life. They didn't know why. You know what I mean? It wasn't just genetic. They're being pushed to do it by this earthbound. Anyway, this situation I was referring to is this earthbound kept saying, because this client knew how to protect themselves, okay? But they were going to a surgery, and this earthbound tells me, well, I got to get home, and I was the strongest one. There's a bunch of others trying to join with them, but I was the only one strong enough. And they kept saying that. So before I got them to cross over, they're about to go on, and I said, oh, by the way, You talked about the room and how many of them were trying to join. How many? And they said, oh, somewhere between 34 and 55, I thought they said. Something like that. I mean, and so when I say that, the reason why I talk about this more now is because the reality is the earthbound population is as numerous or more numerous than the living here. It's a problem. And it's a layer of this planet that needs to be relieved for us to go up in vibration. All the stuff people are talking about, the vibration. Well, you need to get rid of some of these earthbounds. That's very murky, let alone the demonics that just walk around here, and trauma walks around here like the member of the population.
You know, Tex and Barry, this is why I love having Barry on the show, because for anybody that missed it, the topic for tonight's show was the Militant Bigfoot, and we got involved with this, which is why I love it, man. I love it. I love this. I love it. No, it's fantastic, man. I knew this. It always does. It always happens this way, and it's always for the best. And we didn't plan that anyway. This just comes up, and these are always the best shows. Everybody, we're coming upon our 5-minute break on Beyond BMI with Barry Littleton. Lily's got your links. She's been throwing them in chat all day long, so everybody go subscribe to Barry. We'll all be back in 5 minutes. Barry Littleton, Tex, and myself. We will be back in 5 minutes to continue this fantastic conversation.
See you in a minute.
Four minutes to go, folks. 4 minutes. Three minutes. We're almost there. Two-minute warning, guys. 2-minute warning. 1 minute. 1 minute.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. Great show with Barry Littleton. We'll bring up Barry and Tex in just a moment. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to Texas Front Porch, Anella, Be Kind, and Canada, and Amy for your fantastic super chats. That's a great way to help support what we do. It is most appreciated by myself and Tex and everybody associated with us. And don't forget, Mondays is Texas Front Porch, comes on at 9 o'clock in the East. Tuesdays is Van Buren Variety, 8 in the East. Tuesdays, Beyond BMR, 9 o'clock in the East. Jason McLean does something called Mysterious Library on Untold Radio AM. You can find Jason at 10 in the East. 2 more live streams with Donnie and Jason. Jason McLean questions everything. That's 8 in the East. Now, Jason's not going anywhere. Subscribe to Jason McLean on YouTube. He's dropping other videos. He's changing it up a little bit. So please go still continue to follow Jason on Jason McLean Questions Everything. Thursdays is Brunch with Bigfoot, Michigan Rob, and Krista at 1 in the East. Later on in the evening, The Blondes, The Booze, The Paranormal Podcast. Subscribe to The Blondes and The Booze. They're at 9 in the East on Thursdays. And if you need a little more woo mixed in with the booze, you got them Fridays at 9 o'clock, The Blondes, The Booze, and The Woo. Saturday, Tex, Danielle Diva, 3 in the afternoon. True Crime, Infamous Minds, fantastic show. I highly suggest everybody go tune in or at least watch the replay. That's live, 3 o'clock Saturday. Don't forget the lovely Jessica Jones on Spaced Out Radio, Saturday and Sunday, 10 in the East. And don't forget to check her out on her channel, The Cryptid Huntress. She does stuff throughout the week as well. So thanks to everybody. I'm going to bring back Tex and Barry.
Yo.
Thank you so much, Barry, for joining us. Great show. I love it. Tex is loving it. The audience is certainly loving it. And before we get started, I don't know if Susie B is still in the house, but she sent me a rock. She asked me, I was talking with her. She asked, hey, Rob. She's like, Rob, what type of animal do you like? And I've always been partial to the lion. And of course, I'm a Detroit Lions fan. So I was supposed to see her down in Las Vegas, and she was going to give me this. So she put it in the mail, and I got a really cool rock, which I'm now going to use. It's a cool rock with a beautiful painting of a lion's head, and on the back, it's got my name, and it's got some. I got to ask you what the arrows. That's some sort of energy, I guess she was giving me. I don't know, but thank you. So it's pretty cool. Thank you, Susie, for that. Oh, there she is. Hey, thank you so much for that, Susie. Love you. So yeah, Barry, every time we have you on, it's a great show. And really, there's not even a reason to have a topic when you come on because you're just a wealth of information.
As I said, it's a cyber illusion, my friend.
I'll tell you what, I'm convinced. I'm all for it. That the cyber illusion has got me hooked, man. I'm hooked to your channel, Barry Littleton, on YouTube. The lovely Lily Pond has been posting your leak throughout the day. So thank you, Lily, for that. Thank you. We have awesome mods here.
I say hello to the entire audience, too, because I forgot to look over at the check and press the thing, but I'm looking now. Thank you. Nice people. Some of them are from the other shows, too, and I appreciate them listening. So very cool.
Absolutely. We try to get you. I try to get you on a couple months. I gotta get you on the front porch though at night because I don't know if you've been on Texas show.
I think once. I don't know.
Yeah, y'all just leave me out in the cold, you know.
Yeah.
I thought I had. So tell me, did you want to? You know, I had to think back because you had mentioned that you said I had done a militant Bigfoot, and it's military in the Bigfoot. That video. Okay,
yeah, the military Bigfoot. I didn't want to copy you, so I just I just changed up the words.
Oh,
I'm learning a lot about.
He dreams stuff up all the time.
You know,
sorry.
Well, you know what's funny? You should say that, Tex, because there's another video, Barry, about Sasquatch and dreams, and how they can project themselves through their dreams. Correct? Why don't you get that? Let's get into that. Just start the second half.
Oh, fascinating. Okay, which one do you want to do first? The military first?
Well, how does it roll? Do they kind of correlate? Is there like it does not matter? Let's go with the dreams because I'm into dreams. Lord knows I have dreams.
There's certain things about Sasquatch that fascinates me. One is how sometimes they're reported to be impervious to bullets. Not just their invisibility and the other paranormal abilities they seem to have, but how they're invisible or they're impervious to bullets sometimes as well. And to me, when I'm looking at this and accepting at what I experienced anyway, you know, concerning these beings and the amount of intense awareness and control of perception they seem to have, I started thinking about things that are called in the Toltec system that was introduced by Carlos Castaneda, more that got people familiar with that, which is what is called dreamers. You know, you've got your stalkers and your dreamers. And the dreamers are people that are born with the ability to maintain dream attention, which means they can transfer and ultimately transfer their full cognitive abilities into the dream body to where they can perceive as much in the dream body as they can the physical body. And when you really read all Castaneda's work and the work of the women that were working with him, all their information that comes to that ultimately what his teachers were doing were in complete control of the dream body. So sometimes these cats would show up and perform. His teachers would show up with their eyes glowing, he would say, but they start doing things that were defying gravity and stuff that would make him start losing control of his bowels and stuff. And they start laughing, oh, you know, because he couldn't take these guys like jumping around off waterfalls, whatever he's seeing them do. But in that way, they were masters of the dream body. And ultimately, when dealing with a lot of the work him and the others have suggested is really the ability to move your cognitive abilities fully perceptually into the dream body. So what I'm suggesting here is that, and what I found interesting about Sasquatch when dealing with the ones that have these paranormal abilities, this nuclear DNA, we don't know where it comes from. And listening to all these accounts of how many of them are just reported as being, they seem asleep. It's quite frequently you see people come up there, Sasquatch up there crashed out. Even this one I was listening to, they're always going up there crashed out in this lady's barn. And why on earth would you have a species that is so weary of humans possibly crash out anywhere near where people are? You know what I mean? But I think in that way, they may be dreamers. And it makes sense because the time that, you know, and I listen to all these people from these two different camps. They're just pests, and I've shot at them. I've wounded them before and stuff like that. And I hear people saying they can't be wounded, they can't be killed. Or some of the military people saying that those whistleblowers saying that we've hunted them, we've killed them, they can definitely be killed. But is that when, okay, that's when normal as their animal, but as manifested beings, as they were called by, what's his name that talked about the Mount St. Helens deal. Oh, anyway, when you start talking about that as in being manifested beings, but when they're in the dream body, if they have the ability to do that, to shift their cognitive abilities into the dream body, then they're capable of these things. Invisibility would just be one of the things they could do outside of the way they could do it physically with their hair and stuff. Okay, another one would be they would be impervious to bullets, when they're in the dream body. So these cats, like for saying like Castanet is dealing with his teachers are teaching him, but the truth is those cats are miles away, crashed out somewhere, and it's their dream bodies teaching him. So when he's seeing Sasquatch, some of the people may be seeing them in dream form walking. Those cats are crashed out somewhere and they're operating in the dream body. I'm not saying it's possible, it's for sure what it is, but it's definitely food for thought. And can't nobody say it's not so. Something is weird with them. And when dealing with masters of perception like that and awareness and going that far back, we don't know what we're dealing with. It's that simple. And where did people like the Toltecs and other learn this type of stuff? I mean, when we deal with even the things like techniques of invisibility, which begins with how the eye works, how the eye actually sees movement first, then silhouette, then color. Okay, and that's the way the eye has to work, how we have a line of sight. People only look so high up and down unless you've been trained. How the peripheral is really in black and white. We think it's not, but it is. Why we so often see spirits in the peripheral. Just knowing those things makes it very easy to elude the human vision, period, along with any metaphysical stuff they can do. But when you start dealing with that, who taught the ninjas that? Because Sasquatch got them whooped, yo. No one's more stealthy than them. Just food for thought, That's all I'm saying. Food for thought. I don't want to get any onions thrown at me on your show, but
no, man, they love it, Barry. They love it.
Yeah, so it's just dealing with the ability to them being shot and not being shot, and that's how we can kind of phase that into the military thing. Food for thought again.
So let me ask you this. Now I'm going to play devil's advocate here. If the military knows that they're, well, let me preface this. So what you're saying is the military understands how they're accomplishing this, right?
No, I wasn't saying that.
No,
I was just saying that they, like several people, have commented that they can be killed. And when dealing with the military whistleblowers, that's what they often say, that they can. They've shot them and killed them. That's what I meant by that.
Okay.
And a lot of comments, when dealing with that military thing, like it's Edwards, isn't Edwards Air Force Base outside of California there, or in California? That's the one I hear a lot of reports of this. They say there's Sasquatch running on that base all the time, that they're just seen out there on that base. I find that very interesting.
Well, and we hear that about military bases in general, too. But my explanation for that was that it's a protected area, and they're very vast. They're huge, and you don't get a lot of people poking around in those deep woods on those bases. So it seems like a pretty dadgum place, pretty good place to hide. The same, and a lot of the military bases, oddly enough, back up to state and national parks.
Yeah.
Wow.
And what I wonder is, okay, because a lot of people believe that Sasquatch, but mainly Dogman, are engineered. Do I need to get you a booster seat there, Barry? Or?
No, it's.
I mean, the old phone books worked perfect,
Yeah. Go ahead. You were saying.
And I've always wondered. You have these sightings in these state parks and these national parks of these creatures, and how much if it's true that the military is working and possibly engineering these things, or even just maybe have a tribe or a pack, however you want to look at it, on their base that they're monitoring, that they slip over into these areas. They escape, basically. Because I've heard a lot of reports, especially out of Florida, that people be walking through the woods and they run across these mysterious metal boxes just sitting out in the woods. They're padlocked, but there's no markings on them or no nothing. My thought, well, what if that's a fence of some kind? Like a sonic fence or something like that to keep these things, or, you know, or even a tracking station, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know if you've heard anything like that, but like you said, it's just food for thought, you know?
I've heard something about that, and about sometimes them having to press buttons on boxes and things like that. So I mean, I don't know. I became, more interested in like some of those other whistleblowers things I'd heard, like when they say that some of the blood collected by the military contained chlorophyll that they had, and when you start hearing things about them being, connected to trees, and we start dealing again with this nuclear DNA. We don't know where it comes from. It's very fascinating, and I've become very interested in the things when people are describing them materializing out of trees and popping out. Some of those pictures that have come up, and how some of the pops and some of the tree knocks we hear aren't necessarily them hitting trees. It's them manifesting out of them, and how that to say they use the same manifestation energy that they use when they drain the batteries out of your equipment. It's the same thing, but they're using that with the tree, and they can only use each tree so many times to do that because it exhausts the tree. I find information like that fascinating. And when we start dealing with, like you just mentioned, these type of different genetic types of them, who knows? Because they're obviously not all the same. And it's always been reported when I would look at this stuff that the type 2 that are more like the chimpanzee type, they're more smaller but more territorial, that they're not having the paranormal abilities that these other have at all. And when Jessica remote viewed, it's one of those targets. She came up, I don't think it was LBL, but it's one of them. She kept seeing these more type 2 type Sasquatch. And she kept saying, but these don't have the paranormal abilities. They're not like that, but they're very territorial. So we start dealing with that, or even some of the things you hear about, what appear to be, extraterrestrials interacting with them too. And what about the smaller ones that are seen in Peru on these craft? What about that? I mean, it really takes the mind more down the rabbit hole than it does.
All this. Yeah, go ahead, Tex. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Titan brings up a good point, and it's something that we just started talking about recently. That how are the Fae involved in this too? Because you get these creatures or these entities are known for living in, manifesting out of trees. And I heard somebody mentioned something to me the other day, and I found it very, very interesting. That if the Fae are just, some people will say that the Sasquatch are the same way, but if they can with the orbs, okay, because we're getting a lot more reports now that the orbs are seen around the Sasquatch and all this kind of stuff. And I'm wondering if this person brought this to my attention. What if that in this state, this energy state of an orb, say these creatures are able to do that, okay? The reason we don't see them is because they travel the root system of the trees.
Interesting. In Europe, they have something called the Green Man, and the legend of the Green Man, and how he's part of the forest and part of the trees and all that. And we start really looking at that and really measuring that up to what's being said about Sasquatch. Boy, there are a lot of similarities there. And as far as that is, could they use that as a travel? I mean, that's a good question. When they're like unmanifested within the tree, that's a really good question. And I can't say it couldn't be, because we're dealing with something so abnormal to begin with.
Exactly.
I mean, yeah,
And if they're able to transition and say, and you know me, Barry, I'm not convinced that they are.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to say it's not happening because I don't have any proof to rebut that. Okay, and I'm so it's a possibility, and I'm willing to say this, that it's a possibility that if they're able to transform into the balls of energy, i.e. orbs, and they are using the trees, what if they're using the trees and maybe they go down to the root system and they can use it almost as a charging station? They
Yeah.
can, because I mean, where else? What better place are you going to get to absorb the Earth's energy?
That's the way it's been described to me, that when they're manifesting out of the tree, especially those pictures where they see it seems like Sasquatch head is just coming out, that's what they've been doing, is recharging within the tree. And that's what wipes the tree out. The same way they use batteries to recharge, and they're pulling that electromagnetic or that energy from it. That's fascinating you say that. And I, when dealing also what I said about them being able to transition their cognitive abilities into the dream body, then again, we've got something that doesn't deal with any of the physical parameters of these bodies, okay? And one thing that can be done is the dream body can be molded into a spherical orbital orb form for intergalactic travel, interstellar, interdimensional travel. That's why a lot of times when dealing with these things that I talk about, it's called the quantum hologram that comes from the Mako, which is really the black hole, magnetospheric, eternally collapsing object. That's what they're called. But when these Makos, so the black hole you actually have, the Mako is actually the mechanism inside that stores the information. So when something goes through the Mako, okay, it makes this perfect copy on the surface that they call the quantum hologram. So a lot of this stuff we see some of these orbs, I'm sure you've seen pictures of them, where you've got these look like there's grays and then looking out or something, these faces in them looking out.
Yeah.
We got to really take this, not just the quantum hologram, but then when dealing with the ability of the dream body and the fact that these Makos themselves actually operate more like brain waves, like what science are now calling conscious waves. Okay. It gets pretty interesting. Even for our physical bodies when dealing with these potential Makos. And the thing about these Makos are they operate these conscious waves. They occur two ways, spherical and helical. Okay. And spherical, we have in our bodies microtubules. I talk about this a little in my presentations. The microtubules of the brain, the neuron network, okay, is actually makes up is spherical. So if we're going to access one of these Makos, we would do it through conscious waves, brain waves. See what I'm saying? And that includes the portals right here on Earth we're talking about all the time, which are small Makos too. It goes there. It's all connected. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
Because I'll tell you, I have absolutely no doubt that there are things manifesting out of trees because Amy and Laney over What the Paranormal have a video of something materializing out of a tree and taking shape and then walking off. It's only about 4 feet tall and it's pitch black, but it looks like a damn Jawa. I've shown the picture a number of times, but
I'll tell you, had my experience not happened with that squirrel, I wouldn't be so quick to say, hey, something about them has the ability to shapeshift. And when dealing with shapeshifters, again, that is done through the dream body. Not all those shapeshifters are actually human doing the American Werewolf in London thing.
right.
Okay, a lot of it's the dream body they're molding by actually concentrating on a particular animal or the patterns and things that they can mold the dream body into that. So that has to be looked at when dealing with shapeshifting a lot. And when my buddy, who I've not seen again, but I know y'all had it better by now, old Tom Powell. Oh yeah, I'm a Tom Powell fan, man. But when I described, my squirrel experience to him, he looked at me, he said, those things that sometimes people will say that just stops you. And I'm fairly sharp, so it takes a little bit to stop my world. He's like, Barry, think about this too. Not just do they shapeshift into animals, they especially shapeshift into tree stumps. And start paying attention to how often you see Sasquatch being mistaken for tree stumps. And people will swear it was a stump there.
I've seen it in the field. I have seen that.
So let me ask you guys this, because this is also fascinating, because I've done reports and read reports on Sasquatch appearing from someone's looking at a tree stump materializes into a Sasquatch, or they materialize out of a tree. And we were talking, and everybody talks about, how Bigfoot, I mean, there's two sides of the coin, whether it's flesh and blood or it's spiritual or it's paranormal, all these things. First Nations people, depending on which nation you're speaking on, call them the protectors of the forest, and they have a spiritual relationship. So when it comes back to these things that me and Tex and a bunch of us started looking into, like the elementals and the fae. Now, the elemental, that's a spirit of the forest, from my understanding. You could classify it as that. So are we all maybe going up the wrong tree?
Question, real quick. When you all refer to the fae, do you mean like the fairy realm, or what exactly is the fae?
Well, I think the fae is a very umbrella term.
Yeah.
Okay, you're talking elves, you're talking elementals, you're talking fairies. Little people. To me, it's and I'm thinking that possibly now, if I jumped the fence over to the Woo train, as David put it, that we would consider Sasquatch and Dogman as fae, because we're giving them the same abilities that these other entities have had, that we know about, and especially over in Europe, that has been talked about for years and years and years and years. So we may be talking about the same. They may be a form of fae. I don't know.
Yeah. Again, and again, it's I'm just kind of walked through this because I spoke with Ron Murphy, and he was telling me about not so much the fae, but elementals were protectors of the forest. Okay, whatever that means, that's up to you, everybody listening, to decide. But what I was getting back to is the First Nations. Some people call Sasquatch protectors of the forest. So when I'm talking to Ron Murphy, and we hear about the accounts of Bigfoot or Sasquatch materializing from a tree stump, or from Mother Earth, maybe, and then I had made mention, maybe, you're on the flesh and blood side, the paranormal side, maybe Sasquatch is part of the elemental, and it's just something we're just ignoring because we're too stuck on the flesh and blood or something paranormal. Whatever.
Yeah.
It's just like Barry, like you were saying,
or that you've got both types. We don't know what we're dealing with. We got the ones that are like the patties, then we've got the type 2s, and we've got the type 3s, and now.
Yeah, and what is that? And who came up with that chart?
Yeah, and especially now, looking even more into it now, you're becoming much more interested in the ones that look even more human-like. That is so often discarded. More human-looking ones, and it gets real fascinating when dealing with that. And what the potential for what they could be is, and the different types. One type that has of a tree type of composition to it that's able to do this. The others that don't are just like some type of glorified chimpanzees or whatever, and then you've got the others that are like these damn Icemen, the Neanderthal jumping around, Encino Man. I don't know, man. I mean, that's what type. Type 4 is like Encino Man, kind of, right? Yeah. I mean, seriously, like these Neanderthals with the big teeth, and so I don't think we can say when dealing with what this laboratory Earth is, that's what this place is. Yeah. There's every sign of that, and especially when dealing with these cryptids and the different types of them that I think that are a part of this, But there are others that probably were natural here, I would imagine. And but so it gets just so contrived. But because I how can I don't know, just like when you get something like for example, I noticed a question that caused some dissension at that conference I was at recently. Someone asked if Dogman was interdimensional. And, I personally have never heard any reports about Dogman being interdimensional. And none of the interdimensional abilities that have been prescribed to Sasquatch, I've not heard that prescribed to them. Maybe I've just not investigated enough, but the ones I've heard, I've not heard that. And that makes them seem to be even more flesh and blood than Sasquatch. But by the same token, someone had asked in one of these other shows I was in, is a brilliant question I didn't see till after the show was over, but it asked how come there's no two-legged bipedal dogs found throughout history in the fossil record. And that takes it to what I've heard about Dogmen is that they're here from somewhere else. They were a group that was placed here a long time ago that's extraterrestrial, like bounty hunters type. I've heard that about them. And if that's where they come from, what happened to them once they got here is different. But that's why there's none of them in the fossil record, these bipedal wolves. So, I don't know. I don't have the answers, fellas. I'm just telling you what I've heard, some things that's been thrown out. So, I don't know. But and to me, it seems that the Dogman almost seems like sometimes it has a more demonic aspect to it. And I guess maybe the media does that. Once you see all the werewolves, people wolfing out, and I told you before that American Werewolf screwed me up, man. That was the Dr. Pepper guy. He's the Dr. Pepper man. He's the pepper, she's the pepper, doctor. And all of a sudden he was wolfing out. The heck?
I'm beginning to question because I had a Dogman sighting when I was 16. Very up close and personal.
And you said it wasn't negative, right?
No, it wasn't negative. It scared the what out of me, but it's not like I had a sense of dread or anything like that. I just, to me, it's no different than running up on any other apex predator. That's the type of fear that it was. But lately, I've found myself questioning because the difference between a Dogman and a werewolf, because how do any of us even know if there's a difference? The
only thing I've seen, that can kind of say something about that is that it seems that the Dogmen are always only seen in full dog form of some type. There doesn't ever seem to be that human component to them, as opposed to where skinwalkers have that human component, something different about them. Does that make sense? And I guess skinwalkers and werewolves might not be the same thing, but I think they kind of would be.
Well, it does. But what if Dogmen are just these skinwalkers, werewolves, whatever you want to talk about, when they're in full form, and that's when we're seeing them? We don't know.
Did you see? Did you see there was that thing? And I believe again it was David Paulides that put it up. It's that old book and articles about the dog people, the dog priests, and it kind of mimicked what we see biblically about, what was it, Saint Christopher, which one, the dog-headed saint, whichever one it was. But it talked about, and these were like articles talking about these dog people trying to integrate with people and how they were savage. Right. And these, I saw that recently, stuff like that. And you start going back to those old articles. These were creatures that were seen quite frequently, and they weren't described as being metaphysical in any way. They're described as lower intelligent, and it's different than what we hear about the Sasquatch. And I think that's been somehow sequestered a lot when hearing about these dog people or whatever they are. I found that fascinating. The stuff we hear from those old articles speak really. Was it from England or somewhere like that?
And Clayton Blackwell says it. Clayton, I'm not picking on you. It's just okay. But this is what I hear. I hear people tell me the difference is, but a lot of this I hear. The difference is the leg shape between Dogman and werewolves. How do you know?
Hey, I'm curious. What's the difference in the leg structure? What is it? I mean, a dog man only have what is it?
A lot of people claim that the dog men have the backward facing legs, and werewolves have the more human looking legs. Okay. And when I saw mine, I was 25 feet away in broad daylight, folks. What I saw was on human-like legs, but the foot was so long and narrow and it was up on its toes, it could have been confused with a dog-legged creature. And I've said this for a long time. What if it's just a misidentification? What if people see that and they think it's a hawk and not a heel? Because it could very, very easily be confused as such. And my question to everybody that has, is going to tell me that, oh, it's the difference in the leg shape. It's the difference in the snout. It's different. How do you know? Just that's all I want to know. Tell me how do you know? That there's a difference, and this is the difference between these two varmints, because I don't know, and I've seen one up close.
Right. Wow, God, and my brain is hurting right now because I used to listen to a guy. He's passed away. He was on Dave Scott's show. We always did the cryptid. He did he was on once a month. The name escapes me, but he would call. Okay, he referred to, like, we're talking about all the variants. He referred to what he had seen, a bipedal cryptid, which he described as being almost like a German Shepherd with the hocked legs, and it could stand up, with the legs going reverse, and looked like an oversized German Shepherd, 6.5, 7 foot tall, not even 7, but it could walk bipedally. Then when he would switch to Dogman, he would always refer to as Tex said, human-like legs. So you've got a person that says bipedal canine being basically a dog that can walk, basically, if we just cut out all the other adjectives, and the dog man is something to know. There runs like a human. So when I first got involved with this, that's what I always thought they kind of were. Because when I think dog man, then I think the big oversized wolf, then I think the military style, then I start thinking about the stories you hear about engineered dog men in the field that look like these soldiers, wolves that carry machine guns, which to me is a far-fetched story, but however, I'm getting at, right? We hear these things. So I couldn't tell you what, and Tech's seen a dog man, but
or a werewolf, or a skinwalker, or I'm crazy.
And I do believe in the shape shifting thing. I know there's some other things I want to talk about, but since they're bringing up shapeshifter and stuff in chat and all that, I got this report. I think I did this story a couple of months ago. It's about this guy. He's driving in the woods. I think it was in Pennsylvania. He's driving his old Jeep down this dirt road, and in the back, he sees something in the back of him, 50 yards away, getting closer. And it looked like a big, oversized wolf. Okay. And it was running towards this guy. And then he claims in the story that it got up on two legs for a little bit, got back down, and hopped in the woods. And he said he's seen these glowing yellow eyes in the distance. So it kind of shook the guy up, especially when the thing started walking. But he said, man, it didn't even matter. It was like a wolf, like 4 foot tall. And this was in Pennsylvania. So he has to take the same route back home. And he's looking out. Now as he's getting closer to where he's seen this creature or whatever it was, he's getting closer and closer. And then right into proximity where the thing was probably running at him, he kind of looked on the side. He says there was a very dim telephone pole with a dim light, and he looks into the woods. And maybe 4 or 5 feet in, it was like kind of cleared out. He looks at a pile of something. So the guy was kind of intrigued at what it was. He says, Rob, for whatever reason, I pull over the car. He goes over to the car and goes into the woods about 4 feet from the road. And he found a pair of pants, a flannel shirt, shoes, and socks sitting there. Now, he says to me, do you think that was a werewolf, or is that just there's nobody running around nude in the woods? I mean, how does, and it's in the area where I seen this thing. He asked me what I thought he asked me what I thought it was, and I'm not going to say werewolf. I mean, this is a story he's telling me. Certainly, it sounds like a shapeshifter, but I don't know. It could have been somebody that just, strong clothes out their car went down the road, man.
One of the stories I've always heard for years and years is one of the way to know it's a skinwalker is they put their clothes so when they come back for them. Before they shapeshift, they lift their clothes there, then they go do what they're doing, and they come back for their clothes. And I've heard that a long time. That's a lot of Native Americans have said that. So I'd put it to you like this: I wouldn't take that with a grain of salt. You know what I mean?
All right.
I've heard that before.
Now this is going to sound like a silly question, but I'm telling you, it's the truth. Why is it that every time we hit, pardon, see something? Don't want me to ask this question, but why is it that every story we hear like that, it's a flannel shirt?
It's a flannel shirt.
Every story I've heard about dogman or werewolf changing or whatever, or even been seen they're wearing a damn flannel shirt.
You know, that is true. When I hear about even the Sasquatch that are wearing shirts and stuff like that, it is always flannel. Think about it. When Bill Bixby turned into the Hulk, it was always a flannel shirt, wasn't it? No,
it was always a flannel shirt.
But Tex, that's such a great point. And you know what's cool? Because me and Tex always talk about data. That's a data point that Tex just remembered from the stories he's heard.
You're right. It's always a flannel shirt. You're right. That's interesting, actually. Yeah. Well, hey, question. Have either you heard reports of dogmen being interdimensional or having any of those characteristics?
Yeah. I've heard. Yeah. Well,
go ahead, Tex.
I've heard theories, and that's all it is. It's just like we're sitting here talking. People claim to know, and when you ask them how they know, something told them that they were talking to dogmen or they're talking to Sasquatch. And I'm not making fun of y'all people. I'm really not. I'm just, I gotta have more than
just what
I gotta have more than it told me so. And then when I ask you how do you know it's a dogman or a Sasquatch talking to you? Well, it told me it was. I'm sorry, Paranormal 101. Spirits are going to lie to you to get their foot in the door.
Well, what about those people though? What about the people in the woods though? We've heard these stories that have seen a Sasquatch and have had a communication telepathically.
How do they know it's the Sasquatch? And how do they know it's the Sasquatch? It's not an entity there with the Sasquatch.
I don't know, but I can tell you if there was something that I thought was a Sasquatch, and again, I'll say thought, but let's say it fits the picture, the profile, and communicated. Let's say that you're like you hear the story about with the rifle barreling it down at a supposed Sasquatch. You see it in the sights, and it says to you, "I wouldn't do that. There's more than one around," or something, or something like that, and it looks like a Sasquatch. And maybe something's pretending to be Sasquatch. I don't know. Again,
I think when you have an instance when someone comes up on one of them and they get immediate mind speak from them, I think you're in a different situation there. Like what happened to me when I got that mind speak, I can't say, and I'll openly say, I can't say, hey, it was definitely a Sasquatch. I don't know. And I didn't exactly ask either, hey, are you a Sasquatch? But it came with me exhibiting my Midwest fear of really just not having one of these cats jumping out on me in the middle of the night. I mean, I felt like I was being so watched by these creatures that it was becoming quite unnerved, and I've been standing by myself for long periods of time. It's pitch dark. I said, look, just don't do it. Period. If there's one of y'all watching me, and I feel there is several of y'all, don't jump out on me. I don't think I can take it. Sorry, people can criticize me, whatever. It's another thing right now. I'm at home in the concrete jungle. Oh, yeah, someone have experience. Man, you're out there. There's a whole other thing going on. Yeah. So I can't say, like Tex, I can't say, oh, it's definitely Sasquatch, but it was doing a good imitation context-wise. You know what I mean? But I think the situations where you have ones that come up and they sit down with somebody and they're sitting there blasting them, it's a whole nother thing going on. And what was his name that did a lot of bit of documenting of incidents like that? David Pauletti's actually got all that dude's work. What's that? Used to run the Sasquatch Chronicles thing. God, he was great. What was it? Why can't I think of his name right now?
Well, Wes Germer's Sasquatch Chronicles. Wes Germer's Sasquatch Chronicles.
No. This guy passed. He passed away about
you're not talking about Dotson, are you?
5-6 years ago.
Ray
Crow. Yes, Ray Crow.
Oh, okay.
Ray Crow used to write about that stuff all the time. People having interactions with him, but he also gave the reports of them taking hogs and slamming them up against trees and things people didn't like either. So I found he was an interesting guy. His research was very interesting.
Oh, I do have to really quick say something because I do like to respect people who have passed on. The guy I was referring to, Brown Dwarf, brought up the name. It was Butch Witkowski. He was a field researcher for like
Brown Dwarf.
He's been a researcher for like 50, 60 years. I think he passed a couple of years ago. But he's the one that had the theory of the bipedal canine and then the Dogman. He had separate categories. So that's where I kind of learned from. But yes, it's just again.
I'm at a loss. I mean, I really am, because I'm not going to beat anybody up because they're having these experiences. I just want to know. I mean, is it a faith thing, or is it just a really strong gut feeling that But I've when you jump on the paranormal side of it, and I guess this is what makes me so gun shy about the whole mind speak thing, is that there's been so many spirits that are up to no good, basically, that try to trick people and, oh, I'm your long lost whatever, and they're not. They're just trying to get their foot in the door, and they attach themselves to you, and it's like you can't get them off with a Brillo pad, and it's just,
I had something else I had to deal with out there, and it was happening to me at night. Normally, because the sun seemed like come up really early out there, like 4:15, but 4:30. Before that, not long before the sun would come up, before I could even get to sleep, and I would hear this chanting. And it was very clairaudient. And when I say that, it sounded like a mix of Gregorian chant and like some type of Native American tribal music. And I would hear this, and clairaudience isn't my best gift. So I figured I'm picking stuff coming up off the land, maybe coming up off the mountain, maybe even echoes from the past. I don't know. Phantom sounds. I don't know. But I kept hearing this. And sometime later, I had heard Scott Nelson and some other people were discussing this Sasquatch chanting, how they've been heard chanting near human habitations. And he thought it was a protective prayer, they were saying. So I find that interesting. So I swear, and it was being described a lot like what I had heard. This Gregorian chant and Native American mixed together. It's very odd. And so my question would be, if it is a protective prayer, is it for them or is it for us? Or both? Food for thought again. I don't know. But I tell you, it was very odd when looking in the realms of clairaudient phenomenon.
I find all this just so odd. Yeah,
It's just, well, it's a
it,
conundrum.
yeah, and we all three of us have experienced all sorts of stuff in our lives, which is cool to talk about this stuff. And it's just
So
like, yeah. Go ahead, Barry.
no, I'm just curious. So is Brown Dwarf in the chat?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's in the chat.
What's up, Brown Dwarf? I heard him say something very interesting on Jessica's show yesterday or a couple days ago. They did Spaced Out Radio, maybe I can't remember, but he had said about certain ceremonies involving 420, cannabis, and Sasquatch. And I'll tell you, I have found a lot of reports surrounding Sasquatch and cannabis, including them being caught in marijuana fields. Over in California, I believe where Brown Dwarf is from, California. My brother stayed down in LA for like 14 years. Man, he came back another brother. Anyway, but the amount of installations they have out there and illegal growing operations that even the military has a problem getting. I've heard a few reports of Sasquatch getting caught in some of those traps. They're out there messing around those fields. So I mean, it makes you just kind of wonder about the connection there. And when it comes to some Native American tribes, where did the peace pipe come from and things like that? It's very interesting food for thought. I just noticed he mentioned that, and I think it's no joke. I think there's a connection there.
You just mentioned something about getting caught in those traps. I know we might as well go for 2 hours. We might as well go another 10 minutes. Okay, you were talking about the military. You were talking about what if? Whoa, someone's got their. I could hear myself. What if cryptids were manufactured by the government? Okay, I don't think that. Hello. Anyway, what? Okay, I'll power through this. What if the government were creating cryptids, Barry? And I remember watching your video. And now, and there's claims by certain whistleblowers in the government that had said, hey, they've shot and killed Sasquatch. We'll just use Sasquatch as the example. And of course, there's nobody, I mean, it's not disclosed to the public. But what if these cryptids is a government experiment gone bad? And let's say, we all know about 411, and there's 10 different things in my mind that account for the 411, the missing. But what if the government realizes some of these, let's call them humanoids that they've made in government facilities? Text made mention a lot of these bases are close to government, state, and national parks. What if we did release them? And what if they are a reason for 411? And what if some of these accounts that we hear about these ops going in and killing these things are in fact true because they're trying to control what they created, but it's gone. Now they can't handle it. What's your thought on that?
My thought is that we're dealing, and I can best base this too off the evidence that has come from so many of these different targets I've had Jessica do. Okay, is that we're dealing with that, yes, to what you're saying, but also we're dealing with such a dark faction that these laboratories, these institutions, where they're underground, hidden in plain sight, whatever, have actually been going on, for thousands of years. And whatever the military is doing concerning them is just carrying this on. It's this dark crap. It's all this dark satanic crap. Period. Chimeras and all this other stuff that we've been hearing about so long, all the way back through Greek mythology. We've been seeing this for a long time. So whatever that dark faction is still carrying it on right now through the government, or I don't want to say that word, through the G-men. That's what's going on. It's the same demonic stuff, and whatever has been going on from back then, they're reproducing now. Everything is a cycle, time-wise, and we're seeing that now. These cryptids right now are becoming part of myth and legend, just like what we're seeing on the cave walls. We're seeing it happening right now, and it's terrifying. Although I'm not a religious cat at all, okay, but when looking at certain religious books that have the word holy on them, all right, and one of them being the Bible, what it says in Revelations about the beast that comes from the depths To me, that sounds like either technology, a type of chimera, or both. More technology, I think. But I mean, it's just, I think it's just, we've been seeing this for a long time. So that's the only thing I'll say. And it's a shame because it's just dark crap. That chupacabra thing, I went so far as to say, when chupacabra started getting, and Jessica and John's information data matched up quite a bit to take it to another level. All right. And they had said that in Puerto Rico, there was this facility that got damaged by a hurricane, and that's where the chupacabra escaped from. Now, chupacabras started really being seen 95 and 96. The original reports are the ones with the spike, and they're also reported to be like marsupials too, and they jumped around and all that. But the thing is, so I started looking at 95 and 96, you had several hurricanes that hit Puerto Rico in 95 and 96. I think a big one was Hurricane Maryland was what it was called. And you start looking at that, then looking at what genetic institutions are in Puerto Rico. You Google that, all sorts of stuff comes up. And how many of them took damage in 95, 96 from hurricane to go that far back? Food for thought, again, research anyone can do. I mean, it's just very interesting where we're getting led with this and with this whole thing of genetics, and we're just seeing it happen what went on before. It's nothing new under the sun. You feel me? It's not good. I'm sorry. It's not. To me, I think it sucks. And it's one of the things that's wrong with this place. This is such a contrived, orchestrated world. There's so many lies going on here. I mean, it's pitiful that it's to where they make it not a enjoyable place to even live. Right. So hopefully I'm hoping that that's what's changing right now. With those of us that are aware, don't watch the technology openly destroy our biosphere. We'll come a little bit forward to that technology-wise. And if we do become a type 1 civilization, that's what we're going towards. Type 1 civilization, we're still type 0 using fossil fuels, which destroys our planetary sphere. Type 1 means they start using the parent star as their power source. That's simple solar power here that's still underrated. So, I mean, it's just things like that. I'm just, But I'm really Mr. Sunshine. I don't want y'all to think I'm a negative guy. It's not like that.
No, we got you. Hey, Tex, I see that. Jerry.
You remember that old TV show, Mr. Sunshine?
Yeah, I remember.
That's me. That's me right there.
Hey, Tex, I noticed. Thank you for that, Barry. Tex, I noticed you start a few questions. You want to go through a couple for that next 5 minutes?
Yeah,
for Barry?
Yeah, I'll do that real quick. Okay, so Titan asked, well, I'm going to go show ahead, bring it up. Barry, have you ever dealt with helping someone with PTSD from a spiritual encounter?
Yes. And, even if it's a positive encounter like I've had, you can still have PTSD in terms of, it's just hard to think about anything else and integrate your thought process and your consciousness back into your daily life, and you trip out. And another thing is not being able to talk about it.
Right.
I'm glad to see that starting to be able to change, not to be able to talk about it because what? People will say you're crazy.
Yep.
So I mean, that is definitely one of the things. And then you've got the other that are people are having PTSD because, the conference I just went to was a lot of people there with what's called SSP, the Secret Space Program, and what claimed to be targeted individuals. Okay. And from what I've seen with the new type of technologies they have that are collective mind, computer interfaces, neurological and virtual reality scenario stuff. I mean, it's no joke. There are some people that are having horrible encounters with these agencies, these dark agencies we're talking about, that have been chasing them their whole life for psychic abilities, or maybe even trying to encroach upon the type of encounters that they're having. This I mentioned these Makos, okay, and how it stores the information of the universe, actually. But in reality, what I'm also describing is what they call the Akashic records. They're the hard drives of the universe. So the inner part of the Mako is going to be the universe at present, all the way to the outer parts, which are going to be the beginning of it. Okay. And that would look around the Mako itself, similar to the accretion, as the accretion disk does of the black hole. So that's the actual Akashic records. And the way we can access it is through those conscious waves. I mentioned the brain and the microtubules, and they're spherical like the conscious waves. But for the brain, we have this mirror neuron network. And what that is similar to the quantum hologram I described earlier. So me telling you about my experiences, what happened, you're using your mirror neuron network to actually live it too. But when dealing with this Akashic records, you have many civilizations that are probably type 5, type 6. They're no longer in existence, but they still exist within that Mako, within that quantum hologram. So they're interacting with us through our brain consciously. This is very, very important.
My neural network tends to buffer a lot. Anita, I'm sorry,
when dealing, I'm just still the PTSD thing. When dealing with that though, and the fact you may have a civilization, beings of a higher level, higher vibration, maybe in coordinate with the divine plan, trying to have contact with you, but we're so entrenched with negative encounters and whatever frequencies they're hitting us with in this technology, to where you turn this into a negative encounter. We do have power. We do have power of perception, and we turn into negative encounter through brain entrainment. That's happening right now. It's very serious. And I'm discovering it more and more when dealing with clients that have PTSD from contact. That was my answer to this question. Sorry it was so long. That was a great question, whoever that was. Great question.
Anela, Barry, do these people know that they are hybrids? She's talking about the ones that you were talking about that you've encountered during, because when what's this guy sitting next to me over here? When Rob asked you about if you've ever encountered a non-human entity when you were non-human, as a client.
I'll tell you, the person that I was actually referring to recently, I just did, had no really thought of that they might be some hybrid, but it comes up in the regression, the past life deal. But then when I would say, watching people that are often gravitate towards this part of stuff, they may not know why. When dealing with these different blood types, O negative, and these different blood types, I think it's very valid to look at that. So, but on the average, these weren't the people walking around that I was working with saying, "Oh, I'm a hybrid." They weren't those people. Yeah. Which to me gives it more. I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it. They weren't saying this. "Oh, I'm a star seed." They weren't talking like that. They were just normal people. You know what I mean? So yeah,
I'm an off-worlder.
It comes out later that they're people that have been out somewhere camping, and they've been approached by a triangle craft that's taken up several people from their group and working with them in there, doing stuff to them. It's amazing the stuff you hear. And this isn't somebody that even thinks they're a contactee. It's somebody out camping into yoga. It's very interesting, the stuff that comes out that we're unaware of, that happens on a higher vibration, subconsciously, superconscious, all these things. And that's why this entire thing, especially contact, is such a conscious phenomenon. It is conscious phenomenon. Ray Hernandez works prove that.
Old Spirit Art asked or says, and this actually they made a statement, and it's kind of made me ask a question because I don't know. I've met light walkers as one. I've met light walkers. One was an oncologist. What is a light walker?
Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah, because somebody needs to, because I don't know what it is.
What's your answer?
I don't know. A light walker.
A light worker. Someone that works with
light
the light.
Light worker, not light walker.
It's a term for somebody that works with the light. And sadly, it's become kind of comical, or how can I say that? Kind of degraded with the New Age thing that goes with that. It's so often affiliated with New Age terminology when really it isn't. If you go back and look at things like what the gurus were saying, everything talking about light, and really it's working with light. It's not a joke because there's a lot of darkness down here, and everybody can see that, and that's real. You know what I mean? In fact, this place is. That's why so many of us think of it. Hey, it's a prison planet, and I don't know that it's not anymore now. My work's showing it's not fully that, but boy, this is like a place that needs so much work and so much help. It's unreal, and like, will it ever reach that? Achieve that? So in that way, I think that the light worker thing should not be taken such joke as it is with New Age context. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, it does. There's only you can do it
Anita
there.
Collier, love you, darling. Where
Great
do you
questions.
think?
Great questions.
Where do you think Dogman comes from? Everybody's got a different opinion on this one.
Yeah.
I've heard so much stuff. I've heard they come from Mars. I've heard they come from Canis, Canis A and B. I've heard all that. What's it, the Big Dipper? I believe that is. I've heard all these things, and who knows? I mean, just to say now that they come from off planet puts us in such a nebulous deal. You know what I mean? But I personally don't think they're really terrestrial, and that's based on the fact that we have no part of them in the fossil record that shows anything about bipedal canines at any time in history that I've ever seen. So in that way, kind of implies maybe they come from somewhere else, kind of like the way a chupacabra does, and these other things are some part of something going on, something dark.
Well, we don't know that. I'm going to put this caveat in there, and I think this goes with a lot of cryptids that we talk about. We don't know that they're in the fossil record. They're not in the fossil record that we know of, that we're given privy to. I'll put it that way.
True. But it should be coming up pretty quick, brother.
You know what? Indeed, I can answer Anita's question really quickly. In 1986, a disc jockey in Wexford, Michigan, coined the Dogman song, played it on the radio, and he manifested one. And that's what Dogman came from, or from Bray Road. That's you guys gotta look at the Michigan Dogman. It's a joke. It's the guy came up with this jingle about someone said, "Hey, I saw a Dogman." He made a song. Then all of a sudden, Dogman sightings appeared out of nowhere. 1986.
Really? Well, I'll tell you. I've got a theory on the Dogman origin, and I actually made a video about it, so it's out there on the channel. Just look up Dogman origin, you'll find it. A lot of you may agree with me. A lot of you are not going to, but it's more raising. It's more of a what if thing, and it's a theory of mine. So anyway, give that a listen. See if that helps. Clayton Blackwell said he's talking about he was telling me the difference of the leg shapes and all that kind of stuff for the Dogmen earlier, and I asked him, "How do you know?" Well, I've got to tell you, this is a different answer than I've ever had. The differences have come from a government contractor that was charged with taking out problem cryptids as part of the 4E unit of the Department of the Interior. Get me in touch with this guy. I want to talk to him. Please. Oh man, I'd love to talk. I'd love to have a conversation with that guy. So, let's see, what do we got here? All right, last one, Susie B.
Susie.
So how would you explain them? And I think she's talking about Sasquatch. If you didn't, how would you explain them coming to you in a dream if you didn't ever even think they were real? Why would they use the Sasquatch form? It's a good question.
Question. Now, does she mean the Sasquatch itself or another being coming masking as them? I'm kind of confused.
I think what she's talking about is probably my rebuttal to it of, why they come to Sasquatch talking to people and communicating with people. Why, and if it is another being, why would they use a Sasquatch form?
Susie B just says, here she just answered.
Oh, the Sasquatch themselves. Okay, gotcha.
I think it's the perfect place to meet us, Susie, just the way that many extraterrestrials will do that too. So often, Susie, that the contactees that I've encountered, especially ones that like at the conference, it's always the people that come up and say, "Oh, I haven't had an experience like yours," but I can feel that energy coming off them, that called Artron energy, that they've either been on a craft or around beings that have that energy, So in that way, I think, but these people will see a UFO maybe for a couple seconds and say, "Oh, that's a UFO," and everybody else is where. But in reality, they've had some sort of a contact on the superconscious level or subconscious. And the night after that, or 2 nights after that, they start having dreams about these odd beings. And they don't even put it in connection with the UFO they saw a few days earlier. So in that way, I think Sasquatch meets us halfway the same way, where we're perceptually halfway between, and they can meet us easier. Because in that case, there again, it shows that they are dreamers. It keeps coming back to that, and that they're masters of the dream perception to a degree, the dreamscape, and that's a perfect way to communicate with us and not have to show themselves. Think about it, not physically anyway.
Yeah,
I hope that answers that question. That was a great question. Sorry.
Nighthawk High Strangeness. Dogman was original, and he's picked this up from, passed on through his, grandfather and father and all this kind of his people. Dogman was originally a long time ago from the Nahanni Valley back in the old days before the white man showed up and ruined everything. I put ruined everything in there because I think we did. But anyway, there
you go. Great ad libs.
That's true. So, and even going back, people always, when bringing up Dogman, bring up Anubis. But if you look up Anubis was a different creature. It wasn't exactly a Dogman.
Well, just the image that we see, interpreted from what they were.
Wasn't Anubis supposed to be part feline also? Feline dog? I do believe.
Anubis?
All I know is he was a jackal.
Jackal.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, I'm not an expert on it, but food for thought.
Well, again. I'm not either, but if you look, and I didn't want to get into it because it's a long process, but I'm going to just throw this out there real quick. If you look at the ancient civilizations, almost every one of them had a dog-like human dog-like deity of some kind. Where'd those come from? And what happened when the flood hit? Maybe a couple of them survived. Who knows? But anyway, like I said, go watch the video, folks. And that's all I've got. Oh, by the way, the Texas Front Porch Network, as it were. Rob, can you put me on solo layout here real quick?
Okay, yeah, let me look. Hang on.
We not you, Rob, me.
Well, actually, I can't.
I don't ever want to hear anything about button pushing from you again.
I push every button across this.
Okay.
That's solo used to give me.
Stop. I'll take care of it. So, we are officially supporting a candidate for 2024. So and I just want to put this out there so all of you know where we stand and what candidate we are supporting, because I don't get political. Y'all know that. I won't even allow it discussed on my channel. So here we are.
All right.
That's cool.
And there you go. That is our political stance.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for that, Tex. And with that being said, thank you so much for Barry Littleton for once again spectacular show. I gotta thank Susie B for my artwork, my rock. Susie, I got it by my computer in my office here, so thank you. Thanks to Tex for the super chat, Anella for the super chat, Be Kind and Candidate Amy. Thank you for the super chat. We love and appreciate all what you guys do for us. Don't forget, we're on 6 days a week. Subscribe to Texas Front Porch, Bigfoot Mission Rob the Blinds, The Booze, Paranormal Podcast, Jason McLean Questions Everything, and Van Buren Variety across our porch network. Fabulous guests, fabulous show. Everybody here in chat is fabulous. Everyone listening later or just listening, not coming on in chat, you're all fabulous. You had a great turnout for Barry.
Great questions, too.
Great questions. Great show. Great audience. And again, a great guest. We'll have you back in 2 more months. I like to have you on every 2 months, the beginning of the month, Barry. How's that sound?
That's cool.
I'll put you on the calendar. But with that being said, I don't know what the girls have on Wednesday. Wednesday's McLean. The girls Thursday. I don't know who I got yet on brunch, though. But anyway, thanks to each and every single one of you. It's been a fantastic show. And until next time, for Tex, for Barry, BMR, we are out.